I don't know when we'll have the pill against aging. I just know, I want to impress on you that this at any rate is not a pill, and you can't quite see what that's meant to be a cell. Cell is useful as a replacement for lost tissues. It's a building block of engineered tissue as a delivery vehicle for various factors, not least in gene therapy. It's a component of medical devices, and it's quite a powerful immune modulator as well. But it's not a pill. In other publications, we've expanded on how cells can be used in vitro and ex vivo, brought back into therapy. That's a bit too complicated to go into now. So just to simplify things, we take this not pill into a dish. It does come from somewhere, hails from some source, some donor, or in the controversial case of human embryonic stem cells, actually 2 donors. And from that dish, we turned into something interesting. So in this case, an interestingly beating cardiomyocyte. And then rendered into some form of application. So be it an injection or some kind of scaffold-bound contraption. So but if you study the regulations a bit more closely, you'll find that actually most of the applications, including the one I've just took as an example, don't actually qualify the regulatory criteria in that. But sometimes you'll find that if you are in an autologous field and you don't do much to the cells, you can get regulated under PHS section 361. But for most of the other stuff, ironically, it's called a biologic. So that's everything that FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, doesn't quite get a handle on. So that includes vaccines, human blood, and blood-derived products, products containing cells, and gene therapy as well. So it's a whole hodgepodge of issues that come into that biologics field. Or more precisely, in the example I gave, it would be an HCTP under 21 CFR 1271(3)D. And within the FDA, we would then look to the Center for Biologics, and within that center, slow here, we would look to the Office for Cellular Tissue and Gene Therapies. So that's so you guys know where to turn to if you want any kind of regenerative medicine. That's probably people you need to speak to. So we've dispersed some of the question marks here. What do we? Gosh, this is slow. What do we do? So in the US, it's biologic. What do we do in the European Union? Europe has a tendency to try to match every step of the medical innovation kind of chain to another piece of legislation. So traditionally, we've had medical devices and biochemistry here with the requisite European directives. And then as the newfangled things came on, biologics, large molecules, gene therapy, cell therapy, tissue engineering, various laws were brought into play to cater for this. Most recently, to fill a perceived gap between cell therapy and devices, so anything that's kind of scaffold bound, tissue engineering, we have regulation 139707, which says we have advanced therapy medicinal products to include gene therapy, cell therapy, and tissue engineered products. So those are ATMPs. So I've got our answer here. ATMPs in Europe, and if you don't talk to the FDA, you talk to the EMEA, and there you would talk in the first instance to the Committee of Advanced Therapies, the newly formed this year constituted CAT, and later on to the European Commission to get the marketing authorization. So that's our answer here. It's not a pill, it's an ATMP or it's a biologic. Yeah, it's easy. Is it really? If we look at the emerging guidance, this is all European now, but US is following afoot. We'll find that regulators are looking for reduction of variability. They want us to tease out biologically active molecules in those cell therapy products. They want definitions of a production batch and looking for batch consistency within those throughout the manufacture process. And they want firmly controlled product and process specifications. They're looking for genetic stability, identity, impurity evidence, and all of that, including tracing, having a full chain of traceability here, and some kind of portfolio of reference standards where you can bounce your product against, leads us back into pill territory. That's a pill after all, at least, if not in name, then in semblance, because all of these regimes are actually imported from what we used to do with chemicals, purified kind of pill type medicines. So it's a firmly controlled, expensively controlled process where you need a specialized equipment to move from a normal kind of laboratory to a medicinal production site. Reams and reams and reams of paperwork, lots and lots of time, and you're burning money in the process. Why is that? So you're probably familiar with this. Well, this is a normal kind of pill innovation stages, from target identification to regulatory review of your clinical trials, and the typical cost curve goes something like this. So it really goes up once you start the clinical trials phase. Because from this stage on, you're trying to please the regulators, you're trying to meet the regulatory specifications. But it's important to bear in mind that that use element reaches back not just into what you do with the products in the marketplace, but into the clinical trials phase. That's why they're so expensive. And further on as well, because you want your preclinical studies to be at least validated to GLP, and you want your sources checked and your third-party agreements in place, and so on. All of that is cost effective. There are other various types of regulation that apply here. And that leads to people in the academic world doing something like this, and usually leaving that to industry to sort out something. But industry isn't really interested, we notice, in regenerative medicine. I'm very proud of this slide because it's hugely complicated, but I'm not going to walk you through it. Just as an abbreviation of this, if you look at the various activities throughout the innovation trajectory of any kind of medicinal product, you have laws, regulations, and stakeholders, regulatory authorities, and so on to negotiate those laws with. And all of these steps shape what you can do in innovation, what you can't do in innovation. So it's not just the clinical trials regulations that apply here, but many other things. And throughout the past 3 or 4 decades, all of these instruments have been shaped to a large extent by what's happening in pill innovation. Okay? So we have supplementary protection certificates, we have the Hatch-Waxman exemptions in the US, and so on. And all of these determine what we can do in innovation. So just to wrap up briefly, you can probably forget about the big pharma business model for those reasons. Regenerative medicine works in a much more bespoke, much more patient-centric, much more tailored kind of framework. And for those reasons, not only are the regulations that are emerging inappropriate, but also the ways we think about them might not be the best. So take-home message, the regulatory framework for regenerative medicine is still evolving. There's still an opportunity to influence the political process in this, but the doors are closing and have closed over the past 2 years, at least here in Europe. And that's not a pill, but I think you've got it. Thank you very much.